guys, welcome to the Overdrive Digital Show. I know it's been a while since we've been live, but you can feel free to send us your questions in the comment section. Bert and Chris will be joining us shortly to answer all your car-related and motorcycle-related questions. The biggest news this week is that Maruti Suzuki has unveiled the Grand Vitara. It has made its global debut, and it seems to be an enticing product with a hybrid powertrain sourced from Toyota, all-wheel drive option in some models, and promises to be the most fuel efficient in its segment, a segment that houses the popular Hyundai Creta. What brings you all the details from the launch floor?
Maruti is latest in the premium SUV segment, and they're making a foray into this segment after a very, very long time. Is with this. This is the Grand Vitara, a premium, C-segment SUV that will go up against the likes of Hyundai's Creta, Kia Seltos, and of course Toyota's Hyryder as well. This will be manufactured at Toyota's production facility near Bidadi for Maruti and for Toyota as well, and it will be exported to several countries and markets around the world. Let me tell you a little bit more about what it's got under the hood. Is the 1.5 strong hybrid powertrain, which means that this car, the Grand Vitara, uses a 1 kilowatt-hour battery, which will, of course, run on electric power alone, which will make it run on electric power alone. Now, that essentially has taken fuel efficiency to 27.9 kilometers per litre, almost 28 kilometers per litre for the Grand Vitara, which makes it one of the most efficient SUV in the market today. So you're seeing the benefits of hybrid technology being applied to SUVs is certainly a big advantage for any car maker. Maruti, of course, is going to enjoy and reap the benefits of that. I'm quickly going to take you on a walk around, and this is what you see as the front end, LED lamps, and of course a new grille design. But let me take you more towards the side profile, which I think is a far more imposing, has got a lot more presence, looks much nicer. Front end to the tail, well, from one wheel to the other, a very imposing design language. It's now sitting on Apollo Apteras, and these are 17-inch alloys and tires, 215/60 profile 17-inch wheels and tires. Again, disc brakes both at the front and the rear end. Interestingly, these tires are mud and snow profile, M+S. That's the profile that they've got, which of course means that it can be driven on rather extensively on off-road trails and should be able to do a little more interesting stuff than the conventional SUV. Moving to the tailgate, you've got the wraparound tail lamp effect. It extends from the left fender, goes all the way around. It's a nice wraparound effect, looks pretty smart, very interesting design language. Again, the tail lamp badging right here. The hybrid is, of course, this badge out here indicates the powertrain under the hood, and the Nexa badge. And I don't know why there's a badge on the windscreen. Well, too much of brand work going on. The boot, fairly large, fairly spacious. It has a partition over here. If you look at it, this partition essentially, however, and this comes in because of the hybrid powertrain. You've got the battery unit sitting right here in the back. And effectively, this reduces boot space considerably. If you look at it, this cannot be taken off. The battery and its associated elements are, well, under that over here. And because of that, the spare wheel sits under, well, the bodywork. So this is what the interiors of the Grand Vitara look like. What I can say is that this is a fairly large, in-your-face and a far more bolder treatment to the interior than I've seen on the exterior for that matter, which is interesting, which is surprising. Now, here is the drivetrain. This is an automatic for that matter because it's the hybrid system. That's the eCVT, which means there isn't a transmission necessarily. It's an electric motor and with a single ratio providing, motive force to the Grand Vitara. Steering wheel, again, continues to follow that very traditional Suzuki look and feel, but it's a nice chunky bit to hold in your hands. I do like the placement of buttons and switches on the steering wheel. They all feel very nice. I like these. This element out here is the controls for, activating all your voice calls and, for voice commands as well. Right out here on the dashboard, it's got this mirror finish veneer and is going to attract a lot of fingerprints. Again, very similar to what we've seen in the previous generation or other previous Maruti Suzuki cars. The layout is very similar to that. But again, large screen, large element sitting out here, but the actual usable surface is fairly small. Now, right behind the steering wheel also the instrument console. That's a completely digital instrument console and provides you with a lot of information, provides you with a lot of data that you would want to know, data points that come up on that instrument console. I do like the tactility and the touch and feel of the buttons out here. The finish, fit and finish, I must say, is quite impressive. Now, what I do like is that the soft touch plastics, well, they're nice. The hard touch plastics that you see on the dashboard, the top of the dashboard, well, it is plasticky. Of course, this being Maruti, cost cutting is going to be a huge target for production as well. And you can see some of those elements in this cabin. It's not bereft of those elements. One important step, and my shorts over here, is ventilated seats. And this is the function controls for both the driver and the passenger over here as well. Grand Vitara has got 6 airbags, you've got ESP, you've got traction control, you've got hill descent control, and of course there's that 4x4 powertrain as well. So all of those will come in quite handy. There you have it. Again, this is essentially what the entire car feels like. I'm going to quickly step into the rear seat and show you what the space is like on that rear bench as well. So here I am in the back seat, or at the back end of the cabin, and it's not a very spacious area to be in. There is limited amount of knee room and of course the headroom as well, as you can see, and that's also because these are very, how would I say, this very chubby seats. You sit fairly high up. It's a comfortable position to be in. I do like how supportive the seats are, especially for the driver and the passenger. Features also fairly Spartan in that sense. While you've got the large panoramic sunroof, which I'm not a big favorite of, which I'm not very fond of, but you do get AC vents and a blow control, of course, for the rear passengers. And you've got the charging points for Type C and regular USB charging points. Overall, a fairly generous and spacious cabin. I think this is something that should hold well for Maruti. Now, the big challenge for Maruti, of course, is this transition into the premium SUV, or rather the premium segment. Doesn't matter whether it's a sedan or an SUV. Maruti hasn't been very successful in the segment, and now the attempt to come back to this class of buyer is going to be a fairly challenging aspect for them. Nonetheless, overall, as a package, the Grand Vitara is a fairly good statement of what Maruti is capable of delivering to this segment, and I'm hoping they're able to make that turnaround this time, and of course establish its credentials as not just as India's largest value for money car maker, but also one who can move beyond those boundaries into the premium segment.
Let's get Bert and Chris on the show to answer all of your questions. Hi, Bert.
Hi, guys. Hi, Sohini.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. Hello.
Good evenings.
Bert, we have a lot of questions already about the Maruti Suzuki Grand Vitara, the biggest unveil. Actually, first question I want to ask you is, what is the estimated pricing that we think, about this Grand Vitara? Where do you think they're going to be pricing it?
To my best estimate, I would see this somewhere in the 18 to 22 lakh rupee bracket is where I assume Maruti would have to price this. Similarly, Toyota would price the product over there as well for the high riders. So Grand Vitara, I'm expecting a pricing anywhere between that, the chunky part or the more interesting variants that you would want to go in for. I would presume it would be in that 18 to 20 to 23 lakhs. Now, why am I saying 20 to 23 lakhs also? Keep in mind is because one, input costs are high, are steep. Secondly, this could probably go even higher than 23 lakh rupee bracket because it's got a strong hybrid powertrain. And the strong hybrid powertrain, we've seen that already in the Honda City. The price is significantly higher than the standard Honda City. And similarly, in the Grand Vitara, I expect the strong hybrid will also be more expensive. Having said that, the 1.5, the standard 1.5, that also got that micro hybrid, but that micro hybrid really doesn't, it gives you some very few fuel efficiency benefits, but certainly not as much as the strong hybrid. Now, that strong hybrid could be a lot more expensive, which is why I'm saying it could be anywhere between that 18 to 23 lakh rupee bracket is what I see Maruti trying to price this car at. Any higher than that, and it will be a very hard sell. Very hard sell.
Okay. We had a question here from Mangesh. He wants to know, for strong hybrid, will the torque output be combined or one or the other at any point in time?
Will the torque output be combined or one or the other at any point in time? Now, this Mangesh, this works. This is the similar principle to what the Honda works, what the Honda City works as, the Honda City HE works as. So the torque output is a combined torque output at any given point in time. That's what the figures say. Now, what exactly is the torque output of the electric motor? I'm not sure if we get that breakup, but we'll have to wait for that breakup to come in from Maruti. They have those details, entire specification of this as of yet. But once they do, we'll have a clear idea of what the torque output for the electric motor is and what the torque output for the petrol motor is as well. But usually these figures are a combined figure and not as an individual thing between each other. Now, what we do know is that Maruti will use this strong hybrid to also, it will work in a way where it complements the petrol engine, all right, and will supplement whatever power losses are there, torque losses are there. So you will get the benefit of the torque, but you also get the benefit of the fuel efficiency because of that electric motor. I mentioned this also on the larger walk around is there available. I think will be on CNBC tomorrow. Will come out. But what I also mentioned is that this is the 1 kilowatt hour battery, similar to what Honda uses. Most of the hybrid cars use those 1 kilowatt hour batteries. They are convenient enough, to give you that initial boost or to continue driving or cruising, using it for whatever purposes. So the charging happens very, very rapidly. Keep that in mind, and the battery is able to, utilize or rather deliver energy to the electric motor for a longer period of time, and that's how they effectively get very, very high fuel efficiency figures for these hybrids. So that's essentially what the basic working of this car would be like.
Okay, here's an interesting question coming in from Bhargava. He wants to know, does the Grand Vitara continue its legacy over the Grand Vitara that the OD team tested 13 years ago? Too
No,
early.
Bhargav, no, Bhargav, not at all. Please understand very clearly. The Grand Vitara that we tested 13 years ago was a segment higher. It actually came into the D segment back then, or rather, I would say now, which is the C plus segment. The Grand Vitara that we know today is not exactly the Grand Vitara that we had previously. It tries to ape that, but it's not close. It will nonetheless. It comes. It nonetheless. It will have some fairly good capabilities, I believe. That powertrain should be very, very interesting to see how it does off road. We're still, I mean, I'm excitedly waiting for that drive to take place. I'm waiting for that event to happen, where I get a proper opportunity to, understand and experience what this hybrid Grand Vitara is all about. But fingers crossed, it does well.
Also, this is just a initial bit, but what do you think, Bert, on your, after your walk around, do you feel that they can take the fight to the Seltos and the Creta?
When I look at it like this, Bhargav, it's great that they've got the hybrid options in this, right? But because of the higher cost, it will cater to a smaller niche of the audience will be much smaller. If that audience changes, and in India anything is possible. I mean, Toyota has clearly established the fact that even an expensive car like the Innova is one of the top selling models in the country, extremely high numbers. So anything is possible over there. Could they, dethrone the Seltos or the Creta from that C segment SUV? Well, the potential is certainly there. The potential is certainly there. The only thing that I think, could be a hurdle for Maruti, not so much for Toyota, is the fact that would you pay 22 lakh rupees and then tell your neighbor that I bought a 22 lakh rupee Maruti? That that egoistical issue could be a hurdle for Maruti more than anything else. I think that price barrier, because Maruti is considered to be the largest value for money car maker in the country. To move away from that and then to and it's a significant jump, keep that in mind, because the gap between Maruti's most expensive car in the market that is there today to where potentially the Grand Vitara could come out would be almost about a 10 lakh rupee gap between these two. I think that's a fairly significant jump for an automaker to make, especially one who has established its credentials as its value for money car maker, and it's been existing or rather playing in these lower cost segments for that matter. So I think it's going to be a fairly interesting journey for Maruti. I do hope they make it because I think the potential is there. The product is good. The product feels sound. Once we drive it, we'll have a better idea of whether it can actually fulfill what it's promising to fulfill, and if it can deliver a lot more. But it's going to be an extremely tough road ahead for Maruti. Also, keep in mind there are not a lot of takers for 4x4 powertrains. So a two-wheel drive powertrain, which is where the hybrid is available, it's going to be very tricky. Now, to think of it, I mean, now what's come to mind is the hybrid will be on the two-wheel drive powertrain, which makes it expensive, right? Even though the fuel efficiency is there, the 4x4 powertrain could be on the normal 1.5 liter, the other 1.5 liter petrol. That also will increase the prices. It could become a fairly expensive product at the end of the day, and maybe that value for money option may not exist. Again, all of these permutations and combinations, there are several of them. We'll have to wait and see what Maruti comes out with and how they price it. It's going to be an interesting journey ahead.
But then again, Bert, it does have a Toyota strong hybrid powertrain, which is coming along. Like you said, that people might not want to say that they are going in for a Maruti at that price point, but still, it's got a Toyota engine as well. And secondly, do you think that that could be its biggest competitor instead
The
of
Toyota, as in the high rider,
yeah, yeah, the
yes,
high rider,
absolutely,
because instead of
absolutely. So there are lots of
okay,
questions and which are still unanswered. First of all, one of them is going to be the production capacity for this car because this is being manufactured at Bidadi, which is Toyota's
with
facility.
yeah.
what is the capacity they have to manufacture both cars for them and for Maruti at this point in time? That's going to be a question mark. Second is going to be the pricing. How both of these going to be priced vis-a-vis each other? And while Maruti clearly stated that they're not in a situation where they will discuss pricing or that's those structures along with Toyota, because the two individual entities at the end of the day, there will still be a lot of challenges within this as to where and how Maruti is able to price their products compared to where Toyota is going to price. Is Toyota going to charge a premium for the badge effect for this thing, for its for what it stands for, what it represents? I don't know. So, like I said, it's going to be a very interesting business study. We're waiting to see eagerly what happens and how it everything is positioned, how it's placed. We just have to keep on holding on. We'll have to keep holding on for the launch dates and when they happen.
Of course, the question will arise that you're competing against the Korean. So, how is the build quality of the Vitara and the High Rider compared to the Creta and the Seltos? Is it similar to the S Cross or better?
Um, it is similar to the S Cross. Yes, I would say actually a little better than the S Cross. You can very clearly see once you're inside the cabin. Essentially, you can very clearly see that this is a Maruti cabin. That's one, which could work for them, which may not work for them because at the car at this price point, you might want something a little more premium looking inside the car. That really isn't there. It's not 100% there in place as of yet. Is it better build quality than the high rider? Of course not. Okay, better than the Korean twins. No, very difficult to say, but they look almost. I didn't sit in the Creta or the Seltos for a long time, but no, sorry, I sat in the Seltos very recently. In fact, just a day before the launch of the reveal of the Grand Vitara happened. And I'd say the Seltos still feels a little better, also has a slightly better appeal to it, both in terms of look, feel, and the quality compared to the Grand Vitara. I can't remember the Creta offhand, but I will have an opinion on this very soon once I sit inside the Creta. Where the Kushaq and the Taygun are concerned, I think they also would have a slight edge, could have a slight edge where quality of materials is concerned, or at least that fit and finish of the perceptive, sense that you get from that the look and feel of the dashboard or the interior materials and quality of that, as well as the ruggedness and the build quality of those. Now, Maruti, of course, has in the past had this issue that the reliability or the longevity isn't really there. And while they still hold good value over a period of time, the quality certainly deteriorates also. I'm hoping that does not happen with the Grand Vitara, and they're able to get in materials that will stand the test of time and will last, and work well for a decade and a half, maybe two.
Okay.
Excuse me.
There was a question here about whether it's the right time for these hybrids. It's just, give me a sec to just scroll to it.
Well, there isn't a right time. I'll just answer the question once. Did you find the question also showing? I mean, there isn't a right time or wrong time. We definitely need alternative power sources at this point in time. And not only because today, I mean, the fossil fuels are polluting, also because, I mean, it's bloody expensive. So we are paying a bomb to pollute the planet. I mean, on which planet does that make sense? You know?
Yeah. No, but he says, Durgesh says that it's irrelevant of the company. Do you think it's an irrelevant time to launch a hybrid? Maybe it's everyone's going directly to complete electrics. Like Maruti Suzuki has said that they don't want to go completely electric, but they are
But there
still
isn't
going with a hybrid.
right time. There isn't a right time or wrong time. At any given point in time, the hybrids certainly have much more benefits over just a normally naturally aspirated vehicle or a standard ICE for that matter. Okay, you're getting better efficiency. You can get better power outputs as well. In some cases, it takes care of those low down torque issues as well. So the hybrids are always better. So there isn't a good time or a bad time to invest into a hybrid, irrespective of which company it comes from. Investing in a hybrid is always a good time. Should you, however, yes, the situation where we are already making this transition towards electrics is there. But the way I look at it, there isn't a very big influx of electrics in the more value for money segments at this point in time. The options that you would buy as an EV today are the Nexon and the ZS EV, and there are only two options. Uh, and I'm not entirely sure, I'm not convinced rather at this point in time that they are probably the best EV SUVs that you could buy in the segment. So till then, hybrids will still work, which still give the benefits that we would want. And the government hopefully will not step in and disrupt sales of hybrids at this point in time. Though they wouldn't really provide any benefits as well. But I definitely don't think they would disrupt sales of hybrids.
Okay, Mihir Rao wants to know, will the full hybrids give power to four wheels?
Will the full hybrids give power to four wheels? Yes, they're perfectly capable of giving power to all four wheels. It's an all-time all-wheel drive. I want to just wait for the entire spec sheet and see what is the configuration that they're doing this in. That's all I'm waiting for.
Okay. And Nitin Joshua wants to know, will the 1.5 liter mild hybrid, which is just adequate for Brezza, be sufficient for the Grand Vitara?
Good question, Nitin. We're not entirely sure. Again, keep in mind that there is sufficient power and torque on tap, so it could be enough. The mild hybrid may not be what we all assume it to be. Let's just wait for a little while longer and see exactly what the spec says. What is the weight that the Grand Vitara carries, and how much the 1.5 mild hybrid it's not just adequate for the Brezza. It's more than enough for the Brezza. Right? Let's be very clear about it, because Brezza also is a fairly light car. I think about 1.2 tons or somewhere thereabouts. So it's not a heavy car. It's a fairly light car, and 1.5 for that car is more than enough. 80 horsepower is good enough, for instance. 100 even better. In the Grand Vitara, I don't think there should be any issue whatsoever. I think it should be this could be adequate in the Grand Vitara.
Okay, then Yuvraj asks you, what are your views on RC Bhargava's statement about the BNCAP? Basically, he has said that India is different from European markets and we cannot allow road safety measures of Europe. Like, we don't believe in the European.
Again, this is the dim view that Maruti always takes and always has this guy. Safety is safety. I mean, the life of a person, whether he's in India, whether he's in Europe, or whether he's in the US, is of as much value to everybody else. So it doesn't matter whether you're in Europe or whether you're in India or whatever. I think we need to apply a safety standard more than more than Europe, because let's accept the fact that Indians, most of us are idiots on the roads, right? Almost all of us are idiots on the road. We don't know how to drive. We don't know the regulations. We have no patience. We are aggressive. We are chaotic. So all of these are perfect, ingredients for disaster. We are consistently living under the threat of an accident or death, also for that matter, when we are out on our roads. Constantly. It's not like in Europe. You don't think about these things. When you cross a light in Europe, when you're driving across a traffic light in Europe, you don't even bother actually looking at the right and the left, because you just know nobody's going to break that and come in your way. Which does not happen in India. In India, I see more people looking to the right and the left rather than looking straight ahead, because you don't know where and which direction an idiot would come from. So, it's not just this thing. It's not to do with so much with BNCAP or with any other global NCAP for that matter. It's more to do with mindset. But again, mindset also in these terms, RC Bhargav should be very clear about it. Maruti has maintained this stance for years. I still remember, I don't recollect which car it was, whether it was the Alto or something else or WagonR, years ago. And this is during the time of Jagdish Khattar, when he had told me, and I had asked him, why does this particular car not come with a rear side outside rear view mirror, left side outside rear view mirror? And he clearly said, nobody uses it, so why should we offer it? Sorry, but that is not the process you apply. That is not how you make cars. That is not how you become a responsible car maker. And essentially, this is exactly the same thing that RC Bhargav is, this is the same attitude.
I use it a lot. I use all mirrors. Even when parking, even if there's a camera, I use my mirrors. Okay.
Bharat NCAP should not be rushed. Should be actually put into place tomorrow itself. It'll call out the standards of safety that all of these manufacturers are employing. And it's a fact that the standards that we apply for India compared to the standards that we apply to Europe or anywhere else, they're absolutely pathetic. Global NCAP has clearly shown this. The quality of materials used, the strengthening, all that is substandard for Indian consumers compared to the same car being sold to Europe is sold with better and higher safety standards, even though it is not mandated over there. Why? It is not mandatory. So why is there a different price on Indian lives compared to European lives?
No, and that's where I want to plug. No, I do want to plug this story because I just earlier this morning we put out a story with the Citro C3 price, and we spoke about whether it's what do we want? Do we want an affordable car, or do we want something which is our money's worth? There's a lot of skimping that has happened in the C3 as well, in terms of safety as well. Certain features that you really should want. So that's another video that you should check out. And these are questions that we should ask ourselves, because we do come across as a country who want cheaper cars, but we should be questioning what are the features that are essential.
No, I
But
understand the
here was
cost. I understand the cost factor. You know,
yeah,
it is definitely going to raise the price of
but
cars.
safety doesn't. Yeah, but safety doesn't come cheap.
Well, yes, safety does come cheap in this country, unfortunately. I mean, if you look at it, every day you get out of the house, you in your house, out of your houses. I mean, look at it. Who gives a shit about safety at all in this country? I mean, nobody gives a shit about personal safety, which is why insurance is one of the highest offerings in the
True.
country. Everybody wants life insurance and 10 different life insurances and 10 medical, health mediclaim policies. And you know
Yeah.
what? You'll take life insurance from LIC. You'll take life insurance from Bajaj Allianz. You'll take life insurance from somebody else, and all of this Sundaram, Clayton, and whatever. You'll take all sorts of insurance, and you'll keep it. But you will not practice the fact that let's be safe, let's live safely. That's not what you'll practice. You'll go out
Yeah.
and opt for life insurances, but you will not maintain a safer lifestyle for that matter. No, you will jump into every single well that you see and expect and hope that you won't drown.
I think Chris has made his pointers right now on what are the policies he should take, right, Chris?
This is
Yeah, sure.
All
This is
right,
like
but
one more
yes.
day, one more land, more about safety. Who gives a shit? I go out into Bandra, outside my house in the Bagala, crossing the road. What man? Can't you
See
see
the
where you are?
situation of the potholes. I am shocked. This country, seriously, our
Exactly.
cities,
Look at the state of the potholes in
nobody
this
is
country. I
looking
just saw a
into
message
it.
today from someone in Thane, Kalyan Belt. I mean, there wasn't a road. There were holes.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was literally like the contractor built holes rather than building a road. It was that pathetic. Even our highways, the Western Express Highway, or what used to be the Western Express Highway, the road going from Bandra to Borivali, for instance, the highway,
yeah.
it's potholed everywhere. I mean, in this condition, you cannot. I don't know what Gadkari talks, and I mean, Gadkari sometimes seems to be the most, I don't know, irrational person who comes out with these weird ass comments. He wants to go fully hydrogen by 2025. By 2025, you will not see any petrol cars or diesel cars on our roads. I mean, seriously, man, make some serious statements. Make something a little logical. I mean, we go down that route, but what happens? Why can't you make sure roads safety? You want to ensure that all cars are safer. Put 6 airbags. Why should I put 6 airbags? When you put a policy that will ensure people know how to drive the right way, people know how to walk and where to walk on the street. Footpaths are built in every city. Who
Yeah,
uses the footpath?
but not used.
The dogs take
Yeah,
a dump in it in the mornings. After that, the same vegetable vendors and fish vendors will come and sit in the same place, and we buy food stuff from there. Who uses this? Do pedestrians use pavements to walk on? No, we don't. We have to walk right in the middle of the road. And the most innate thing I've seen is mothers with children walking on the road and the kids on the outside, not even on
yeah.
the
I have
inside.
seen this too. Yeah,
Where
and they
they
won't
get
even look both ways while crossing. I
and we
just
won't look
experienced
both
this
ways.
yesterday.
We
Yeah,
won't look both ways. Yes, I mean
yeah.
the rants will go on. I mean this is
I
a very
think if
this is a
they
very
start
but
finding people for walking on the road and not using the pavement, I think that's when things can stop. But I don't think that's ever going to happen.
the government should not have gone that Nirod plan all those years for population control. Just open our roads, don't have any regulations. We control population as it is.
Okay, we have a question here from Aman Dwivedi. What will be a better option to buy? Pure electric vehicle like the MG ZS EV or the Nexon EV Max, or hybrid is good option now and wait for the
EV ecosystem. He
EV
meant
ecosystem
not
to
the
develop.
election ecosystem. Aman, but yeah, the EV ecosystem will develop. Then Aman will depend on your usage. To be honest, if you're looking at buying a pure EV and that is for usage intercity travel, then you could probably have an issue within the city. Not an issue. There's probably enough infrastructure and enough range for you to use comfortably. But if you are driving, let's say from Bombay to Pune or from Gurgaon to Greater Noida, EVs can be a bit of a problem. Could be a bit of a challenge. You may not get a charger in place and a charger that is functional. And a city that has enough of power. I mean, if you are in Gurgaon, for instance, you know the situation there. Almost the whole part of town runs on diesel generators. Pune has frequent power cuts. There is no power regularly. So these challenges exist in the country. And having an EV, if you're going to be using it out of the city on the highways for long periods of time, certainly not the option that you should go in for. A hybrid will do the job, gets you good efficiency. They're significantly less polluting than a standard IC. But yes, an EV at the end of the day, if you make a statement and you were really concerned about the environment, then the EV is the only way to go for that.
Okay, before I take the next question, I'm just going to read out this piece of news because it's not included in the video that we're going to play later. But Mahindra has unveiled the prices. Scorpio N automatic, the four-wheel drive variants. The Z4 petrol starts at 15.45 lakh rupees, going all the way up to 21.45 lakh rupees for the Z8 L diesel. Mahindra also went on to state that these are introductory prices and will be applicable only for the first 25,000 bookings that start from 30th of July. So if you want a four-wheel drive option, it's only available on the diesel engine, even though it can be had with either a manual or an automatic transmission. Both the petrol and diesel engines may be had with automatic gearbox, each of which is a 6-speed torque converter. And Mahindra plans to roll out 20,000 units of the Scorpio N in the initial period, which will be valid till December 2022. But your thoughts on the pricing?
Well, just throw up that slide again, Sony, if you can.
Yeah.
Because this is very crucial to the pricing of the Grand Vitara as well, right? And if you look at it, I mean, the Z8L diesel, 21.45 lakh rupees. Now, this is essentially where the petrol hybrid would exist as well, if not a little more expensive. Because it's also got a four-wheel drive powertrain. The Z8 has the four-wheel drive powertrain. This is where essentially you're looking at. But keep in mind, the Scorpio once existed in a segment much lower, right? So that hasn't really changed in terms of perception. The quality also hasn't really lifted up that it has to come into this. It's almost competing against the XV700 for that matter where the Scorpio is concerned. So I can only surmise that Maruti has an extremely tough job ahead of it in terms of pricing the Grand Vitara, right? Because just look at it. In one shot, what they could do essentially is also take away business from Mahindra if they were able to price it right. Bring that pricing down to about the top 10, 20 lakh bracket, and Mahindra will have a tough time on its hand. But keep in mind, Mahindra is also saying that these are introductory prices applicable only for the first 25,000 bookings, which means these prices are set to increase. And this, I would expect, would happen within the next 2 or 3 months. They're not going to issue a press release on this. We'll probably look at this very closely, and we'll follow this very closely and come back to you with the minute we know that the prices have gone up. But I expect this to happen. 30th of July is when the bookings open, right? Yeah. Bookings start from 30th of July.
30th of July. Yeah.
Give it about 2 months' time, or I'd say about 3 months' time at the most, and we'll know exactly where and what. That's just 25,000 numbers of 25,000 bookings have garnered. I am expecting to see the prices go up instantly.
What Lazy Wanderer wants to know is the 1.96 liter a fair ask for just an automatic transmission in the Scorpio N? He's asking because someone in the family is looking to buy the Scorpio, but the second thought is of the pricing.
Tough. I mean, you're getting decent power torque, okay, and I think in that sense, along with an automatic, it depends on the usage also. Where you're going to use this car now? What I do know from, I haven't driven this car extensively as of now, right? But what I do know from those engines are they're phenomenal engines. Both petrol and diesel are phenomenal engines. I really like what Mahindra has done with them. I also think they've done a great job with the transmissions for that matter. And the automatic for a car of this order, I think would be definitely a benefit rather than disadvantage. Is it a fair ask? I believe so. Yes, it is a fair ask. It is a fair ask. It's a good engine. It's got good power and torque output and ratings. And it's a perfectly fine engine to drive that automatic. There shouldn't be any issue whatsoever. I think whoever buys it will enjoy either this option or whatever options are there for that matter are pretty good for this Scorpio. Price differential.
Yeah,
The price differential is there. If you can throw up that price sheet again, Soini.
Yeah, Vivek.
Yeah, I think that Z6, Z8, somewhere around there is. We don't have the full sheet over here, but it's somewhere on our. You can check it out on our social media handles, and that price differential, yes, it's going to be there. You can't do much about it. It is an expensive engine, it's expensive technology, and Mahindra needs to recover that money as well, along with automatic. It may sound a little expensive, but that's where it is at.
Someone was asking us about the Tata Safari versus Scorpio N ride comfort. Chetan wants to know.
Chetan, I will comment on this once I've driven the Scorpio, and to be honest, I won't tell you this immediately, but we will have a comparison test happening hopefully soon. That is if Tata Motors agrees to give us the Safari, because their usual response these days is that we don't have a car. No, they've been quite accommodating for that matter. They've always provided us a vehicle for that matter. And I'm sure come out May, they will still provide us with the Safari, even for this comparison. So look out for that. As soon as we get our hands on the Scorpio N, we will have a comparison for you. But nowadays, the challenge that I'm seeing is Mahindra is not so keen on giving out his vehicles because it's more interested about getting social media profile handles to kind of do this whole song and dance about it, rather than getting the proper details and more analytical opinions about its cars. So let's see if who gives us the cars. Not probability, neither will. In which case, we may not have a story. In which case, we'll have a lot more time to spend on the weekends. So yeah, good for us. Win-win for us in any case. So either your frame is stuck or mine is. I'm not sure which is which.
Sorry, I was thrown out of the stream. I thought you had frozen, and then I realized I wasn't in it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you already answered this question. Mangesh is saying that at this price point, is it better to go for the Scorpio N or stretch a bit and go for the XUV 700?
Uh, I would recommend going for the Scorpio and Mangesh, because if you're going for the 4x4, you've certainly got far better 4x4 abilities than the XU700. XU700 is an all-wheel drive powertrain. It has got very limited capabilities. Mahindra does not use the XUV for their own grade escapes. Uh, the Scorpio N and the Thar is the only thing that they rely on. So my advice to you is go to the Scorpio N, far more diverse capabilities than the XU700. However, if you're looking for comfort, you want that size and that road presence and all that, then the XU700 is the only one that you need to go in for. Otherwise, for everything else, the Scorpio N will fit your bill.
Okay. Arun Krishnan is asking, does the Grand Vitara come with a 6-speed manual?
I don't remember off the hand, Arun. I'm not really listening, but I believe it will have a 6-speed manual. Yes, it will have a 6-speed manual.
Hyundai i10 Neos or the Maruti Ignis, which is better to drive on hilly roads?
Which is better to drive on hilly roads? Neither. I suggest you get a bigger car with a slightly better powertrain. Yeah. You're going to struggle going uphill on either of these cars. They're going to be whiny, they're going to be noisy, and they're going to have no fuel efficiency whatsoever. Because you'll be revving these engines very, very hard, which means you'll be hitting those, 4,500, 5,000 RPMs, and down in lower gears, second or third most of the time. So it's going to be a bit of an issue. Either of these cars. If you can afford to get a larger car, then get them. But otherwise, if not, if you do not, that does not fit in your budget, then either of these cars is good enough. The i10 Neos, probably get the i10 Neos Sport, or that the turbo, and that probably will give you slightly better, torque and a slightly longer or other wider range of capabilities than the Ignis.
Chris, here's a question for you. What are your expectations from the upcoming Royal Enfield Hunter 350? What's the launch date, and who will it be competing against? What will it be competing against?
So Royal Enfield Hunter 350. Well, we're going to be getting our hands on it pretty soon. As far as the launch date is concerned, it should be right around the corner, a little after our ride experience. Probably next month, the beginning of next month. So something to look forward to. And as far as its competitors, well, everyone in that 350 space, so the 350cc space, so good competition from in-house from Enfield itself, and so there's a lot to look forward to. We're waiting to get our hands on it and see what it's like to ride. Then you can get a hang of, and get a picture of what it will actually compete against once you actually ride it. So looking forward to that in the near future. Do keep a lookout for that.
Okay. But Mahindra will soon be unveiling electric SUVs. What segment would that be in?
These are in diverse set of segments, Sairaj. Okay, there's one which is the KUV, which should be that segment as well, which is kind of the entry segment also. But there's a diverse range of SUVs that are coming out in various segments. Now they're not coming out with this necessarily; they're showcasing certain concepts to us. Maybe, just maybe, these may be production ready, but we don't know. We don't have much information on them at this point in time. So just hold on. I think August 15th, it's not too far away, is when we will have a lot more details as to what Mahindra is doing, because that's the day they're announcing their grand EV plans and showing off, all of their products to the world. 15th of August, mark that date. We are going to be in UK, not me personally, but Rohit is going to be there in UK, and he's going to try and get his stories from there on all those new electric SUVs that are coming from Mahindra.
Mangesh had a very interesting question to ask. He's asking, are potholes a mechanism used by the government to slow down drivers?
I wish it were not, but certainly not the way I see some people driving through potholes these days. I mean, people just don't give a damn. They just drive through the potholes, damage suspensions, damage their cars, damage driving dynamics, alloys, damage tires, all sorts of shit happening. But yeah, I wish. I mean, it was. I don't think it is. I don't think government has a policy to slow down drivers at all.
Okay, on that note, we'll quickly run through the news from this week and we'll be back. So, any of the questions regarding any of the news bits, please jot them down in the comment section. Hi guys, it's time for us to wrap up the hottest automotive news from this week. Now, Citro India had promised us a very affordable C3 and they have somewhat delivered on that promise. The C3 is priced at 5.71 lakh rupees for the base 1.2 litre variant, going up to 8.6 lakh rupees for the 1.2 litre turbo variant. These are introductory prices which sound great when you consider it undercuts the rivals like Tata Punch and Renault Kiger, but it does miss out on a few features like central lock, unlock button for doors, rear defoggers, rear washer and wiper and a few more. It does, however, offer dual airbag and rear parking sensors. Another miss is an automatic gearbox option. Citro India is offering 56 customizable options in the mix to make the car look and feel more premium though, all of which could bring up the car cost to match the rivals or even charge a higher premium. We do have a video about that as well on our channel, do check it out. Maruti Suzuki has swapped the Espresso's engine for a more frugal 1 litre dual jet motor from the Celerio. It now makes 67 PS of power and 89 Newton meters of torque. The automatic variants now get hill hold assist and ESP. These updates have made the hatchback more expensive than before. The base manual trim now starts at 4.25 lakh rupees against the 4 lakh pricing it started off with, and the top of the line automatic trim charges 70,000 rupees more than before. The Ather 450X and the Ather 450 Plus Gen 3 have received upgrades in the form of a bigger battery, a 3.7 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack from a 2.9 kilowatt-hour battery pack that has substantially increased the riding range from 116 kilometers to 146 kilometers as claimed by the Indian Driving Cycle. The electric scooters now have 100 by 80 wider rear tires and new 12-inch MRF tires, which Ather claims leads to improved ride and handling. Updating to a 2 GB of RAM and 16 GB of ROM, Ather believes that the user interface will be quicker than it was in terms of switching between applications and other things. We've tested the scooter recently in Bengaluru. Do check out the review on our YouTube channel. And Hero Motorcycles has just launched the Hero X-Pulse 204V Rally Edition for a limited period of time. Priced at 1.52 lakh rupees, the bookings are open only from 22nd to 29th of this month. This motorcycle gets fully adjustable telescopic fork with 250mm travel, preload and rebound adjustable monoshock that takes the rear wheel travel up to 220mm, handlebar raisers and a large side stand. Everything else on the motorcycle remains the same, including the mechanicals. And Bhavish Agarwal, the CEO of olaelectric, has announced via Twitter that they will be investing close to 4,000 crore rupees to set up a 11-acre facility in Bengaluru, which will focus on the research and development of electric vehicle batteries. The olaelectric Battery Innovation Center will have an automated assembly line for cell production, a non-destructive test lab and equipment with cell and pack imaging, nanoscale analysis and molecular dynamics simulation, C-ray spectroscopy and Gen 3 CT scan machines, and electrode fabrication unit for building anodes and cathodes from different materials and designs. The batteries will be produced at Ola's Gigafactory in Tamil Nadu with an initial capacity of 20 GWH. Ola Electric says that this facility will be up and running by next month. That's all the news we have for you from this week. We'll catch you next week as well. Until then, drive and ride safe. Okay. I'm surprised there are no questions about the Ola Electric factory yet because they just announced it.
I'm glad there are no questions. Usually shouldn't be questions about hot air.
Sorry?
So he hung something, someone's hung.
No, I'm there. Chris, are you there? Just need to check. There
Yeah.
are some motorcycle questions. So the first motorcycle question is from Rajesh. Did you guys get your hands on the latest e-motorcycle Roar? Is it advisable to wait for a few months and then buy, or today's technology is good to go?
Yep. So yes, I hope I'm audible. I'm experiencing some trouble
Yep.
with my internet, but yeah. So we did in fact get our hands on the Open Roar. In fact, a couple of days ago, and in all honesty, yes, you should wait a couple of months before you actually whip out your checkbook and sign up for that because yes, well, first of all, the motorcycle that we rode, it was in the final stage of its prototyping. So the plastics, the fit and finish, even the quality of the display and stuff, well, there was a lot to be desired. And the company says that it's going to be tackling all these issues that we pointed out. You will see the review soon. Well, yeah, the company say that they will address all these issues, but yes, they also say that they are gonna start off with deliveries by September this year itself. So if they manage to do so in time, all well and good. But it seems highly tricky as of this point in time. So you will want to wait and see if they actually figure out or come out with a proper solid product because there were a lot of niggling issues with the bike that we rode. So yes, I really suggest that you hold on for a bit before investing in this electric motorcycle.
Here's a question from Lazy Wanderer as well. Is Honda really getting the CRF 300L to the Indian market, or is it just to gauge the market response? What are they actually launching in August?
Yes, so there are plans, but once again, you can't really say with Honda because they say one thing, but then at the end of it all, they might really pull the plug on it and say it wasn't feasible or give us uh, some answer that really baffles us. So I think it's just to see how the response, how the market responds, how people are engaged, how much they want to like really show interest in this particular vehicle. Yeah, basically, it just comes down to that at the end of the day. We'll have to really wait and see.
All right. And there was one more question. Yes. Mayur Shah wanted to know, he's curious whether Ducati is interested in launching the Desert X in India.
Oh, I can read the questions. The audio was a bit off. But yes, of course, Ducati, as usual, brings in all their products which are launched in international markets. And it doesn't take a really long time before it really gets to India. We will see the Desert X in India by the end of this year. And yeah, something to look forward to that. Um Rohit has gone for the Ducati the week in Italy, so he should be experiencing that motorcycle or getting his hands on it sometime soon. So something to look forward to. But yes, of course, this motorcycle will make its way to India by the end of this year.
All right. But here's a question from Vishal Parmar. Is the Citro C3 non-turbo engine performance sufficient for city rides with 5 people? The 1.2-liter engine?
So my internet's really slow. Give me a second. Give me a second. My network's like really sketchy. Yeah, the Citroen C3 non-turbo engine performance sufficient for city rides with 5 people. Yes, it is sufficient for city rides with 5 people. Why would you want to put 5 people in the C3 in the first place? I mean, ideally it should be just four. It's not a large car; it's a small car, and it really you don't feel comfortable with 5 people inside it. So forget what engine it has and whether it can deliver it or not. First of all, just putting 5 people into that is it should be a no-show. But yeah, if you had to, that turbo engine would be more than enough with 5 people sitting inside the car.
Ah, wow. So Vikram says he just test drove the C3 Turbo, excellent power at a budget. Feels like we have a worthy alternative to Polo and Ford cars. But what would you say?
Yeah, because part of the power to weight ratio is there. It's a light car at the end of the day, so you've got great power to weight ratio, and that essentially makes it a fun to drive car. So there is no issue whatsoever with it.
Okay. Ayan wants to know, how can Citro launch a modern hatchback with a rear parking camera missing even on the top variant?
Similar to how Peugeot did that with the Ambassador, remember? Remember that one video where they had the elephant sit on the front of the hood and they rammed into the wall. They made it to 307 and eventually. So that's how Citroen launched a modern hatchback with a rear parking camera. No, I'm just ranting. But See, Citroen is coming into the market. It's coming in slow. Okay, they can choose what features they need to add into the system, what they need to exclude. They've done their clinics and their studies, and they've questioned potential customers as to what they would want to see and not want to see. Also, at the end of the day, keep in mind that there are certain things that you cannot offer everything. I mean, tomorrow, Ayan, today you're asking about how can they, come with a rear parking camera missing, a top variant. Someone else might say, why isn't there ventilated seats? Someone else would say, why isn't this kind of sound system there? Things like that. It's always a matter of whether you should or should not. I'm sure they've got audible sensors, got proximity sensors for that matter, and I think those work just as well. It's also what helps them to bring the price down, make it very, very competitive. That 4.5, almost up to 5 lakh rupee price tag for that. It's not a bad price tag at all. I think it's a brilliant price tag. And I think Citroen's challenge more of this after this will be that despite not having all those features, but a reasonably sweet price band, they don't have the dealer, the network strength to push these cars out of the market. And I think that is what they need to target right now. They need to work very, very hard on getting the dealer network across the country sorted out ASAP.
But when you look at the competitors in the market, and these people are offering a rear view camera, something which people, it's now become a basic need in that particular price band, then why would, skimping on something like that does seem to question, no? I mean, it will raise questions.
Of course,
Instead, in fact,
but it's a business at the end of the day that they're running. They're not running a charitable organization.
because with 95% localization, you would
even with
expect that
the
they
scale
would.
is just the scale is not there. They've got about 23 dealers in the country. What can you push through 23 dealers? You're expecting each car to deliver or to hand out at least 100 cars to have a number of 2,300 cars in a month. What is 2,300 cars? That is not even a week's number of that's not even a week's number of Tata Punches sold for that man. So you see that's it's a very sensitive space that they have to be in. They need to address this carefully. You cannot just go all aboard and assume that the car will do extremely well. Because yes, in my opinion, they should have offered everything. Made the car because it looks good, it looks funky. They should just offered everything. Probably increase the price of the car. But then, of course, certain research might also show them that it might not work at that price point, and it might work at a better price point. Let's see what happens to the car eventually. Maybe at some time in the future,
Okay.
they will offer these features as well.
All right. Dr. Sachin wants to know which midsize SUV has the minimum body roll and is reliable. He's upgrading from the Honda City 2012 model. How will the High Rider be as an option for him?
Shucks, I was going to read Dr. Sachin, I was going to read the first part of the question and then advise you to go for a Range Rover Sport. And then I saw the upgrading from the Honda City. How will the High Rider be for me? I'm not sure at this point in time, Dr. Sachin, because we still have to drive both these cars, and that will happen very shortly. Once that happens, we'll have a better, more informed opinion to give to you. With the High Rider will fit what you want. But again, mid-size SUVs, not too many of them have got minimal body roll. The body roll is going to exist. Keep that in mind. But I would believe they're reliable enough. Most cars today are fairly well built, though they have certain issues, but it's definitely not as much as it used to be in the past. And that's why, in that sense, most modern cars are far more reliable than what you would expect probably 2 decades ago.
All right. We have a question here from Arun Krishnan. Is the Tata Nexon diesel reliable? Is the Tata service that bad?
Yes, Arun, there are issues in the service, the customer service that Tata Motors is able to provide. But on the whole, I mean, I don't see there being any problem with the Nexon EV. I think the Nexon EV is a reliable car. On the contrary, I would in fact tell you to go for Nexon. Sorry, I'm saying the Nexon diesel is a fairly reliable car for that matter. There are really no issues, and with amongst all the Nexons for that matter, they're built well. And they've ironed out, Tata Motors has ironed out most of these issues for that matter. So I don't think there are any concerns that we should be worried about. Service, yes, there's something that Tata Motors really has to work on, improve not just quality, but improve the turnaround times, get it faster, get it better, and of course, give people that aspirational sense for they're delivering their cars. That also needs to be delivered with their cars, with their range of cars as well.
But Mayur is planning to upgrade from the Polo. Which one is more value for money, the Harrier or the Safari? He needs a car for 5 people only. But if value for money, then he can go for the Safari too.
Every week, Mayur has a different car to buy. I'm not sure what he does, but every week he's got a question. Should I buy this or should I buy that? I don't know how many cars. I don't know, Mayur, how many cars you bought in the first place. Right? He come on to the show every week, and every
Maybe
week
it's a
he'll have
car
to plan,
business.
plan to do for that. I'm not sure how many times he's asked me that he's planning to upgrade from the Polo. And I think he's just testing me to see if my opinion changes every week.
He's also spoken about the Range Rover. I don't know. There's a lot of conversation going on with people right now
Yeah,
while he
I
was
remember. If you go back
discussing.
in the history of Mayur, I'm going to go back in the history and make an Excel sheet. I'm going to analyze this and filter and sort it all out. Need a car for 5 people only, but if value for money, then I can go for Safari too. Harrier or Safari? I would suggest the Harrier. I would suggest the Harrier.
Okay. Okay. Karthik
There
wants to
isn't a
know
lot of demand for
Sonnet
the Safari.
DCT.
There isn't great residual value for the Safari as well. So just going for the Harrier, there is certainly residual value over there.
Okay. Karthik wants to know Sonnet DCT or the Brezza for highway driving.
Solid DCT, not the Brezza. The Brezza is
Okay.
something you'll enjoy driving in the city, but solid DCT overall, ride quality, comfort, stability feels better and also feels heavier than the Brezza. So that's what a lot of people have this perception about weight giving you better see, and if that's the case, and the Sonnet does also deliver for that matter. It's definitely got better stability and poise on the road than the Brezza.
Chris Schaffmeister wants to know what's a better buy between the Ather 450X and the TVS iQube for daily running of 80 kilometers, considering both upfront and ownership costs.
The Metro.
Sorry. Yeah, so the Ather 450X and the iQube, well, two very different machines. So if you really enjoy riding fast and a little bit on the aggressive side, you will really fancy the Ather. Whereas the TVS iQube, well, it's one of the electrics that you can really compare to an ICE engine. It really feels like a normal, regular ICE scooter. It doesn't feel like an electric. It's tuned to be so, and even the way it handles, the way it performs, really nice and pleasant. Yeah, and now if you're going to be running at 80 kilometers a day, I'd really suggest that you ideally go in for the Ather because it has that little more, like a little more capacity, a little more range, just to be on the safer side because yeah, well, range anxiety for you, and yeah, well, I'd consider that to be like basically the range bit. You have a little more to play with, and considering both upfront in terms of ownership, well, yes, both give you this 3-year unlimited kilometer warranty on the parts and everything. So ideally, it should be the same. But then again, TVS is spread out a lot better across the country, depending on what city you come from. You might run into issues with the Ather, like getting parts if for some godforsaken reason something goes wrong with your scooter. Because the company as of now is just spread out in around 36 cities. So depending where you're at, TVS's service may be a little better on that front. But if you really like riding a little more faster and a little more livelier, then you will really enjoy the Ather 450X. It's a real solid product, and you might enjoy it a little more than the TVS.
Okay, here's another question. With all the RAMs and ROMs, can Ola scooter be hacked? I think he's talking also about the Ather because that's what we mentioned in news. We were talking about the
Well,
new 450X.
I'm not a real hacker, to be honest. So I can't really answer that question, but I'm sure there's a possibility for everything. So, but of course, these guys must have thought of everything and come up with some kind of failsafe to keep people out of the back end, out of the system. Because yes, of course, there are OTA updates. There are SIMs in these vehicles, and they are connected constantly. There is a possibility, of course, but I'm sure these guys will have thought of everything and come up with some kind of fail-safe security devices, security systems on the scooters. So, yeah.
But Ayan wants to know, does the DCT gearbox on the Hyundai Venue or the Kia Sonet suffer from heating issues in bumper-to-bumper traffic?
Well, not the modern, more contemporary DCT gearboxes. There used to be an issue. You would feel a lot of that heating coming out, the heat coming into the car. But nowadays, that's not. And also because the transmission doesn't, put out more heat. It's also because they've got better heat shielding on the transmission tunnel, which doesn't, then allow that heat to travel into the cabin as well. So that is probably more of the thing. But those heating issues, they're not heating issues necessarily, but DCT gearboxes get certainly hotter than standard torque converters.
We'll take a last question from Mangesh. How much effect does electrification have on driving dynamics of the car? Or are they completely independent? Case in point, the Tata Nexon.
How much effect does electrification have on driving dynamics of the car? Well, it will have a significant dynamic dynamics because it'll also depend on how fast you're able to generate momentum, Mangesh. The faster you're able to generate momentum, the more pressure you're putting on the suspension system, both front and rear. You're either loading up the front faster than what standard ICE engine, the standard ICE engine would be able to do. So in that sense, they're quite relative to each other. What performance the engines are or the motors are able to output is also a factor of how the suspension, how the chassis should be performing as well. They're not entirely independent in that sense.
Okay, one more last question. Vishnu Desai, budget is 20 lakh rupees. He wants a front-wheel drive car inclined towards the Tiguan, but is worried about the quality issues with the car. Also, is DSG reliable for Mumbai traffic, or should he go with the Seltos?
DSG is perfectly fine for Mumbai traffic, Vishnu. So going for that. But again, like I said, when you put these questions forward, make sure what exactly is it that you want. And I because here it more or less looks like that you've already made up your mind that you want the Tiger. And the Tiger is not a bad product. The Seltos overall is a much nicer product. Feels more spacious, feels more premium. Feels like it's got better, and looks better also. I think, in my opinion, it looks much nicer for that matter. So I think I would recommend go the Seltos. I think you'll be happier with that. But again, no issues whatsoever with the DSG. No issues with the Tiger.
All right, before we wrap up this week's show, let's take a look at what we have on the show tomorrow at 1 p.m. on CNBC TV 18.
Maruti is latest in the premium SUV segment, and they're making a foray into this segment after a very, very long time. Is with this. This is the Grand Vitara, a premium, C-segment SUV that will go up against the likes of Hyundai's Creta, Kia Seltos, and of course Toyota's Hyryder as well. This is the all-new Hyundai Tucson. Now, this is not a nameplate that Indians will find strange because the Tucson brand has been in India for almost 2 decades. We are at the ICAT, which is the Indian Center for Automotive Testing. Out here, we're getting a sense of what ADAS Level 2 delivers on the Hyundai Tucson.
This is the Tata Signa 4825TK, India's first and biggest commercial vehicle tipper running on Indian roads.
Yeah, we've not shifted completely to reviewing trucks, but this one is pretty cool. So do catch the story tomorrow at 1 p.m. You can also catch the repeat of the show at 12:30 and 8 p.m. on CNBC TV 18. So we'll catch everyone next week then.
All right, guys. See you all next week. Have fun. Do follow us. Keep following our social media outputs.
Handles,
and of course,
yeah.
watch us on television, and do subscribe to the magazine as well from time to time. And see
Actually, in a couple of minutes from now, there'll be the Simple One review as well. Chris has been very busy with a lot of these electric scooters, right, Chris? So we have the Ather 450X already and Simple One as well.
It's an easy bloody business. I mean, where's the effort? Where's the hardship? Where is the development? Nothing. Just go to China, buy an electric scooter, rebrand it, repaint it, and sell it in India. Made in India.
Well, it's a little more different than that. It's a little more complex.
Well, there's probably a little
Well,
bit more
yes.
to that. I mean, of course, they would have got something else from somewhere else and something else from somewhere else and whatever. I'm not sure how much of development actually happens in India, or how much is being said and how much is being, generally being done. These are all of these statements these days are extremely difficult to digest.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We'll catch you next week as well. Have a great weekend.
See ya. Bye bye. Have a nice weekend.
All right. Bye, guys. That's it.